Great, and welcome everyone. I'm Kim Leach and Autumn Snyder is here with us as well. We are Acro parents from, my daughters are at LADA and Autumn's daughters are at First Class. We have been founding members of the R7 Acro United Parents Organization for the region. And one of the things that we found over the last couple of years is sometimes new parents have a lot of questions, and in some places you can get the answers a little bit easier than others, but we figured this was a good spot, especially with a lot of new gyms joining us this year, that we can kind of get everybody on the same page, a little bit of background information in order to get us started with the season. This is my 6th year as a Acro parent. I have my daughter Regan, this is her 6th season. My daughter Carrington, this is her 4th season. And last year my daughter Mackenzie did 1 season of Acro. She has now retired officially after her 1 year. She went out on top though, so she's very happy with it. And I'm also the regional representative to the Growth and Development Committee with USAG. Autumn, do you want to tell us about your Acro experience?
Sure. Sorry, I'm supposed to be the technology of this thing, and that might be an epic fail. So if I get a little crazy, I apologize. My name is Autumn Snyder. I am, I guess my kids are with First Class Gymnastics. To be honest with you, I don't know how long I've been at that gym. I know that we've been in Acro for at least 12 years at this point in time. I've had 3 daughters go through the sport. I do have 1 that is officially retired, and 2 on the international track. So I have a lot of experience. I don't do anything with the regional board, but I am on R7 Acro United, and I handle the team management for First Class. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
And just to go over the topics we're planning to cover tonight are: what does the Acro season look like? What are the different levels and the explanation of that? If some gyms take very different approaches to leotards, and so if you are at a gym that requires parents to buy competition leotards on their own, we have a little bit of background on some of the standards for that. A little bit about the USAG photo policy, and what exactly is R7 Acro United and why you should join. So we're going to start out with, what does the Acro season look like? And right now we are considered in the preseason era because we're not competing yet. So right now we're doing a lot of the training, the preparation, getting ready for the meet schedule within the region, and your teams are working on training the athletes and starting choreography or finishing choreography depending on what level you're at. So we are in the preseason. We are not competing yet. Our local meet season will be between February 2nd is what we have scheduled for the first meet through April 5th, and those are all local meets. The athletes are required to do at least 2 local meets and have 1 to 2 qualifying scores depending on their level in order to move up to their state meet. This year, for the first time, we're going to have 3 different state meets in our region, which is incredible. So in Maryland, that meet will be in April 25th and 26th. In Pennsylvania, that will be a combination between Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and that will be May 9th. And then our southern states of Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina will be hosting their own state meet this year. We do not have a date or location on that, but that should be coming soon. Once you have your qualifying score at states, the athletes move on to regionals, which will be the weekend of May 16th and 17th. And as far as we know, there has not been a location definitively set for that yet. It's in the works. And for levels 7 and above, they can then advance to nationals, which will be June 17th to 21st in St. Louis, Missouri. It will be our host. And that this year is going to be exciting. They're going to have our nationals is combined with acro, rhythmic gymnastics, trampoline, and tumbling. All have their nationals at the same time. And then I believe there will be the, a couple days later will be the women's artistic gymnastics. Their Olympic qualifier will be shortly after. It's still in St. Louis. So they're making it into a whole large event, one after the other. So it should be very exciting. So the next question is, okay, so we've started this and I'm told my kid is a level 5. What does that mean? What are the levels? How do they become a level 5? This is their first year. I don't know what's going on. So this is directly from USAG, this little chart. Level 1 starts out with just conditioning and stretching only. It's in order to build up strength. Levels 2, 3, 4, and 5 are now competitive levels. And as you move up each level, it becomes the difficulty is increased, and you have you continue to build on the skills from the level below as you increase. And then we also have the international track, and those are the athletes that will go overseas and compete against other countries onto the international track. And that is what Autumn was saying, where her kids compete. And we have a little bit further breakdown and explanation of the levels. And this is a lot of information on this chart, but it was the best way that I could see how things are broken down. So as I was talking about, level 2 through 7 are considered compulsory levels. And as your difficulty increases, your expectations are increased as well. So level 2 through 8 all uses the JO, the Junior Olympic Code of Points that is listed on USAG. And then as you go higher, you use the FIG or the Federation of International Gymnastics, their tables of difficulty in order to determine what your values are. So at levels 2, 3, 4, and 5, you have one combined routine that has set music and choreography. And that routine cannot be changed. You can't do anything to the skills. It is a set routine that they perform. Again, it's still building on the skills. It's still becoming more difficult as they move up, but it is a very set routine. So every level 2 pair will do the same routine to the same music, as well as 3, 4, and 5. Once you get to level 6, you still have a set number of skills that you have to do in it's one combined routine. However, at level 6, you get optional music and choreography. So you're now beginning to experiment with your choreography and your dance a little bit more, but you are not scored for artistry. So you get the experience of doing the choreography without really having to worry about a score for that choreography and dance. Oh, sorry. And then as you go to level 7, you are still have your set skills, but now you have a choice between 2 different skills. And you have one combined routine with those skills, but you can do those skills in any order. And it's a chart, and you can choose, are you doing something from column A or from column B? And so you have your optional music and choreography, but now you're actually being scored on that choreography with your artistry. And those are all the considered compulsory levels because you're limited on the skills that you can do. Once you get to level 8 is a transitional level. And they still use the JO code of points, and they still have a set number of skills that they can do, but they now have a greater options as to which skills they're going to do. There's still limited choices, but they do get some, there's some degree of options there. And they do 2 routines at level 8, a balance routine and a dynamic routine. They can set their own choreography and music, and they are scored on both execution and artistry, but they are still under a 10-point difficulty. So those set skills and those options are on USAG has figured out that if you do all those skills and perform all those skills, your difficulty level is at a level 10, is at 10 points. If you do not complete one of those skills properly and you don't get credit for it, then you get a deduction on your difficulty score. And once you get to level 9 is when things get a little more advanced again, and things get more complicated. This is where you start using the FIG tables of difficulty in order to choose your skills. There's still requirements that the coaches have to adhere to while making up the routines, but those levels do balance and dynamic routines, and they have a difficulty value that they have point values assigned to their skills, and they have to fall within certain point ranges for level 9 and 10. So that's where these point values over here in this column are for dynamic and balance, the D and B. And we will go into scoring as we get closer to the season, but this is just an example, and I wanted to lay out what the differences are more in the levels more than how it's scored. But I wanted you to see the progression as you go up between level 9 and level 10. They're able to choose skills from that same table of difficulty, but the point ranges of the values for those skills increase. And the same thing happens when you get to, when you're on the international track, they figure out their point values a little bit differently, but you can see the increase in the point values for their difficulty. And once you get to the junior elite level, that is when you have a balance routine, a dynamic routine, and a combined routine. So they do 3 routines. So you start with one routine that's choreographed for you, then you move on to a routine that you get to choose your music and choreography. Then you move on to 2 routines, and then you move on to 3 routines. And each step of the way, you're increasing the difficulty and building on the skills from the levels below. So I know this is sometimes some of the most confusing part, especially when you say, well, the age group, and going over to the FIG levels from the JO levels. It becomes confusing. Well, what do I need to do in order to do that? Most of the time that depends on a coach's choice between determining what level you're going to be and how you're going to compete. So Autumn, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Kim, do you know if parents have access to the tables of difficulty and the code of points on USAG's website, or is it just something that a professional member?
The code of points is accessible.
Yes.
You can go in onto the USAG website under Acro and under the Junior Olympic or the JO levels, and you can pull up the code of points. And so you can see exactly what elements go into each routine.
Okay.
The FIG,
Sorry.
the FIG code of points is a little bit more difficult to find. It's actually on the FIG website. And because my kids have not had to use that as much, I let the coach take care of that. So
Right.
I've looked at it, but I haven't printed the whole thing.
Okay, so you said usagym.org, acrobatics, and what was the last thing they have to click on?
On the left-hand column, it should say under Junior Olympic or JO.
Okay.
And you can find the code of points there. You can also find the rules and policies for acrobatics and everything else.
Okay, for code of points. Okay. Okay, thank you.
So,
Question I didn't have the answer to.
are there any other questions? Like I said, I know this part is the most confusing. When we came in and we started out as level 6, I said, well, what does that mean? Because my other daughter was in artistic and she's at a level 3, and I'm going, they're twins, they're doing the same stuff. Why is one a level 3 and one a level 6? But they really, it does not, the artistic levels and the acro levels are completely different. So it's not, one set of levels does not convert over to the other if you're coming from the other disciplines.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Competition leotards, I'm not sure. I know some gyms, the gym takes care of it, the coaches take care of it, the coach's decision. Other places, they tell the parents, go get leotards. So we're not saying that one way or another, that is the coach's decision. If you do have to find Leos for your team or for your kids group, there are a couple of things that you do need to know. And one is that they're Leos in their pair or their group. They need to be matching or complementary of each other. Especially if they're in a mixed pair, they're obviously not going to match, but they will be complementary, the same colors, the same designs. So you cannot have, say, oh, here's 3 different blue Leos. They kind of look, they need to match as much as possible. Or I have seen some where they've been black and white, where on one person, the left side is black and the right side is white, and the other person, it's the opposite. And that's okay because they're complementing, but they still have to go together. And this is the part I made sure to pull it directly from page 56 of the rules and policies, because this is where the most questions during the meet season I've heard from parents who've been around even, is about the skirts. The athletes will get a deduction, can get deductions on their skirts if they wear a skirted Leo. Some coaches say, we're just not doing skirted Leos, and that's fine. You don't have to worry about the deductions at all that way. I wish sometimes that's the way it was all over. There was talk of going away with skirted Leos in Acro, but for now they are still here. So the part here, it says the style of the skirt, the cut and the decoration is free. So you can have any style, but the skirt must always fall back on the hips of the gymnast. So once they go up into a handstand, it can flip, but as it comes back down, as they come back down out of the handstand, the skirt has to flip back down. So if it stays hiked up as they go into the next part of their routine or their next dance number, they'll get a deduction because the skirt did not flip back down. Ideal skirts are fitted close to the body, do not have several layers that separate. They follow the line of the leg and cut of leotard. There be attached at the sides and include a design on the leotard underneath. So if you have a design on the front that is going through the skirt, then that design should follow through on the underneath leotard or be complementary. So if you're Leo, if from the top everything is blue and white, you're not going to have a red under part to your leotard. It should all be one piece and match. And the look of a ballet tutu where it's sticking out, island grass skirts, or a dress style is forbidden. So it has to be a leotard made for acrobatics. And most of the companies that I have seen, they will usually ask you when you go to order, which discipline is this for? And they will follow the rules if they are a company that has made leotards for other groups in the past. And the skirt must be integrated into the leotard. So you cannot have a leotard and put a skirt over it. It has to be one piece. It cannot be removable. All attire must be modest, including the use of proper undergarments. The cut of the leg of the leotard must not go above the iliac crest or the hip bone during any point of the exercise. Back of the leotard must not go below the scapula or shoulder blades, or the neckline no further than half sternum in the front. Lace and transparent material on the torso must be fully lined. Those are our decency standards, and it is not the same across other disciplines. So I know that in rhythmic gymnastics, a lot of their leotards are not lined, and they do not get deductions if they have any of their undergarments showing, where our girls, I say girls because I don't know that I've ever seen a boy get a deduction for their uniforms, and I'm not as versed in theirs since I do not have a boy. However, when it comes to the leotards, if underwear is sticking out, if a bra strap is showing, it will be a deduction. So those are all things that you want to, when you're looking for leotards, things to think about and look at. If, again, that's if you have to go out and look for leotards for competition on your own, which some gyms you do, some gyms you don't. Are there any questions? I had to get rid of the chat window in order to be able to see the presentation. So I don't know if there's any questions.
I don't see any questions right now. What I will say about the skirts is it's very easy to go to pretty much any seamstress or even some parents on the teams who are versed in sewing can tack your skirts just in one spot on each side, and that will allow it to flow. And when you go upside down, the skirt goes upside down, but when you come back and you're standing upright, the skirt then falls back into place. So that's a very easy fix that most coaches are aware of. And it's just as simple as taking the Leo to a seamstress and having them put one little stitch in each side of the Leo. And in regards to the undergarment showing, but glue is your friend. It's an easy thing you can buy on Google and keep it in your bag, and that'll help you to not deal with any of those deductions.
And if you have a team mom, or a lot of the coaches will keep a small sewing kit with them.
Yes, they do.
In order to help prevent emergencies. We even had leotards last year where it was a single hook and loop closure. And so my girls were actually sewn into their Leos every competition and then cut out. So having a small sewing kit and a pair of scissors, at least one parent or the coach, that is a must. And most of the time our coach had it, but of course, you know, things happen and things get forgotten. And so I have gone out at the last minute and ran to the store in order to get the small, you know, dollar store little sewing kit in order to have it with me. But if you have just like a tan or nude color needle and thread, that usually takes care of most things that you need. So the photo policy in the past year, USAG has made amendments to their photo policy. And if you go to, you might want to jot this down. It's on the r7acrounited.com under resources. And you can't click on it, but I'll show it to you very quickly. On this page, on the R7 Acro United page, it has a list, of information about meet photography. This is a work in progress for our region and for our teams in order to figure out what the best way for us to stay compliant with photography during meets, and the best way to stay compliant and assure that everybody can get good quality photos of their athletes while they're competing. So in the meantime, the short of it is that, yes, you may take pictures of your kid while they're competing. However, in Acro, it's difficult to just get pictures of your own kid because they're doing skills with 1 or 2 or 3 other people. And so there are always multiple people when you're trying to take a shot of our skills. So if you're taking pictures during a meet or during practice, you want to, first of all, make sure that you are taking photos in public view. Sometimes you might be going to take a picture and you're in a, changing area and you don't realize that there might be somebody else in the background that might not be appropriate. So we have had that happen in the past. Making sure that you are out in the public. I can't get back. I've lost my cursor. Sorry. No. No. I don't want to end it. There we go. Come back. So you want to make sure that you're out in the open and in the public in an area where you're not going to have to worry about anybody in the background not being appropriate while you're taking pictures. The best idea is to take pictures of your athletes in their pair or trio. If another parent in that trio, or in your pairing or group, talk to the other parents to make sure that it's okay. And most of the time, our teams have done like photo sharing, and so we upload all of our pictures. We have a couple of great photographers on our team as team moms that take pictures for everyone, and we make sure that they have a signed photo release, so there's no question about whether they have permission or not. They have permission from our whole team, and then they share their pictures. When you do share photos on social media, do not post photos that you do not have permission to post. So if it's of your own kids, pair or trio or men's four, if you have permission with the other parents, yep, great, go ahead. That's fine. Make sure that you always tag another parent or the other parents in the pictures. They can always undo the tag, but what that does is helps to avoid in our social media landscape, helps control who sees the pictures. And if I'm posting a picture of somebody, although it might be unintentionally, with your privacy settings, somebody else can see, one of my friends can see that and say, oh, that looks really cool. And then they share it somewhere, and then it gets shared somewhere else. And next thing you know, my, partner's mom doesn't know that now this picture is in 3 other places. So you want to make sure that your privacy settings don't allow photo sharing of your photos. And just to kind of leave that trail and make sure that everybody knows what is being posted, and where sometimes we get a little bit ahead of ourselves because we get so excited when our kids are doing a new skill and, oh, this looks so cool, look at that. And you forget that there may be some people who are like, wait a second, I don't want my kid's picture everywhere. And this year, especially, I know there's also a concern that has been brought up of taking pictures. You see a Leo that you really like, or during a meet, you say, oh, I really love the routine that this group does. And so it's innocent, and especially with the elites, you're going, wow, this is so awesome. And you're like, hey, look at what, this other group at my kid's gym is doing. Well, if you've not had permission to post that and you've put it out there, there are reasons, especially with those elites, that they would not want their routines shared or would not want their pictures of their skills shared, especially this year going into a world's competition. They are going to be keeping all of that pretty close to their chest so that other countries are not seeing necessarily what they're doing or what their, Leos look like. It's in order to help keep that not secret or hidden, but not tipping your hand to your competition so that they know ahead of time what you're going to be putting on the floor. Autumn, was there something you wanted to add about that too?
I don't know if you already mentioned it, but you will notice an event photography and recording notice at your meets this year. So that will be probably posted as you enter, and then you may see it even a couple more times, but they're going to post the rules about photography so that everybody knows what to expect. It will also be on the meet invitations as they go out, saying that you are allowing us to take pictures of your kids. So the coaches will be aware of that. So if at any time you don't want those pictures to be posted, let your coach know so that they can inform the right people, because it is a directive from USAG, and it's being placed on the meet directors of each meet, and we're just not going to be able to contact all the parents. So it's going to have to go through the coaches. So you will see that. It'll probably look something, I don't know if you can see it, but it'll probably look something like this. That gives you the information. And we are, as a region, trying to come up with a way that you guys will be able to, on a private setting, see some really good pictures that we take and print them off and things like that. And it will be on a private site so that it doesn't go out to the public, but you guys still get some really good pictures But that information will come later.
Again, we're still working with our with the region, and within R7 AU, we have a team that is working on developing how our region is going to handle the photo policy. So I can't give exact information yet because it's still under development, but I want to let you know that does not mean that you can't take pictures of your own kids during the meet. You can. That will still be allowed. However, we're trying to, within the guidelines, get you some semi-professional photos as well, or professional level photos. And again, working within those guidelines. Another rule that I've seen is to make sure of propriety when you're taking photos. Sometimes we don't think about it because we become almost blind as parents. We're so used to seeing these acro skills. And there are some really cool skills where the girls are, you know, half of their time they're upside down and in the splits and in full straddle. One of the rules is that full straddles should not be taken head on. So whenever possible, to take those photos from a side angle. Again, it's a way to protect our athletes, protect our young kids from those who may be looking at the pictures differently. We're looking at them through a parent's eye or with an appreciation to the sport. Not everyone who would be looking at the pictures may see them that way. So we want to try to make sure that things are done in order to keep our kids safe, keep the athletes safe, and still be able to enjoy things. But whenever possible, if you can take some of those pictures at an angle, and you'll get to know. I know right now during choreography, and they're still just doing skills here and there. By the last meet of the season, especially, you'll know exactly where your kids are on the floor when they're doing that cool skill and where you want to be in order to get, the picture that you want of your kids doing their awesome skills. So do we have any questions on that, or have we exhausted that?
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay. So, 1 second. We've mentioned R7 Acro United, and that is who is hosting tonight this talk. But what is R7 Acro United, and why should you join? We are a regional parents organization that was started last year in order to help support the goals and the mission of our regional committee, which is made up of mostly coaches in the region. But because they're coaching, they're on the regional committee, they're on national committees, they are not always the best people they don't have enough time in order to do all the things they want to do. I know our coach would not have the time to be putting something like this together. So as a group of us from different gyms came together and said, you know what, we want to increase the communication. We want to know what's going on with our region. We want our region to grow, which are all goals from the Region 7 committee. But we're doing it, again, we're helping the regional committee, but we are a parents organization. And so we are fundraising. We do have some fundraising efforts that in order to support all the athletes in the region, or at least support athletes from each gym in the region throughout. So it's not just the Maryland gyms getting everything, or just New Jersey or the focus in Virginia. We're trying to spread out and do things for people all over, which is why I was excited to be able to do tonight as a webinar. Last year I did a parents talk at a clinic down in Virginia. And so I was able to talk to a lot of parents down in that area. But then there were, new parents up in New Jersey who did not get the same information. And I was trying to get to each of the gyms individually, get some information to them. And it was more difficult to do it that way. When it came up, hey, would you be willing to, spread the information, talk to parents and do it online so that we can reach everybody in our region, which runs from Maine all the way down to South Carolina, all the coastal states, and Pennsylvania and West Virginia that are not on the coast. So we have a very large region, and there's no way that I could travel everywhere. So being able to get people here from all over the region tonight is a great asset. And by having the parents organization, it is an opportunity for input. We have direct input with our regional chair, Karen Freed. Not always that she's able to do something about some of our questions or concerns, but a lot of times we're able to get a more direct answer and feedback as to why things are that way, or that this is something that's being looked at for the future. And having a, increased communication. One of the things on the R7 Acro United website is a calendar tab, and all the meets right now are on that calendar. So you'll be able to find out information, get information as the meets get closer. Not every gym will go to every meet. That is up to your coach, how many meets you will be going to and which meets you'll be going to. But you can still see information. There may be a meet that's not very far from you that, because of conflicts or some other reason, you may not be attending or competing at, but you can still go and watch and support because now you have a calendar and you know about it. Where I know, even a couple years ago, we got a list from our coach. These are the meets we're going to. Never knew about other meets in the region that we were not going to. So this kind of helps increase some of that communication. And one of the things we want to do, one of our goals, is to help grow the sport of acro within our region and really throughout the country. We are the only regional parents organization in the country. And the other regions are, looking at us going, well, what are you guys doing? How are you doing that? Why is there so much growth where our region, we've added more gyms in the past 2 years than other regions have total. So they're like, what are you doing? How are you doing? How is that happening? And how can we do it too? And as the sport continues to grow, we need to network and be able to, talk to each other instead of just our own teams. I know, again, I've only been in the sport, around the sport, for 6 years, but when my daughter started, I think there were 6 teams in the region, and now we're up to, do you know what the latest number was, Autumn? I should know this. I believe we've more than doubled that. We were at 12 teams last year, and we've just found out another new team today. So our sport, specifically in this region, is growing very quickly, and it's, that's what we want to see. That's what we love about the sport, and we want to share it with others. So, and what does joining look like? So on the R7 Acro United page, if you go to visit there, and there'll be a membership area or an area for parents, and you can say join. You can fill out the form, and it'll take you to a page in order to make a donation. It's a suggested $10 donation per athlete, and check with your team. I know there are some teams that you are automatically paid for the year, but I know that is not all the teams, have not gone that route yet. But again, we're trying to do other things and have other larger fundraisers in order to be able to help the entire region at all levels. Anything else?
No questions yet.
Okay. I'm either doing really good
Or we lost them. We lost them.
or we lost them. Nobody's there. So some of the things that we've had people ask about and said, can you please be sure to cover this? And we said, well, we can't possibly cover everything in one night. And we're almost, we're going on like 50 minutes so far. So we want to do a couple more webinars as we get closer to the season. That would include, you know, what does the scoring look like? What is a difficulty score? What is an execution score? What is an artistry score? Not exactly what every deduction possibly can be, however, just an overview so you have an understanding of what the scoring will look like at a meet. What the meet structure is like. If you're coming over from an artistic meet, typically you have a 3-hour time slot and your athletes go from event to event, and you know, there's all the apparatuses are going at the same time. That is not what an acro meet is like. You watch every single routine in order throughout the day, and the levels are mixed all on one day, which is one of the greatest things about this sport. I think that you can have somebody who is just starting and the next routine is a senior elite national team member. So you get to see the whole spectrum of the sport all within one day. What do I need to know about competition hair and makeup? And that is probably one of the biggest questions that new parents ask. They say, I don't know how to make a bun. How do I do that? There is a tutorial for that on the R7AU website, and we might be coming up with more short videos like that again. And then later on, as we're getting ready during states and you're qualifying for nationals, so what do you need to do in order to prepare for nationals and going to nationals, and what does that look like, and how is that different than even a local meet or states or regionals? And so those are some of the other ideas. We are open to other topics. If there is something that you want to know about, let us know, and you know, we can definitely answer your questions on that. I think, and that is it. I will stop sharing. There we go. Now you can see me again. Okay.
Let's see if I can unmute everybody so that if they have questions, they can.
Yes.
And now everybody is unmuted, so I don't.
You can go up and remute yourself, by the way, if you don't want to be talking.
But if you have questions, now you can be heard.
Anyone? Any questions?
Hello, my name is Joy from Maryland. How you all did a great job. Thank you so much for. Oh, are you?
Yep.
Hi, Joy.
Hello. We got some other people joining us back there too, but yeah, no, I wanted to thank you both so much for taking this on and putting this together. I think is very helpful for parents like me who are super new. And I have a very introductory question, and I have an 8-year-old who just started, and she's on the pre-acro team, and I really don't understand like how they move up. Like, do they move up each season? Can you move up mid-season? I really don't have a good grasp on that as far as their levels.
So, do you want to do it?
I was gonna go ahead. We're tired of me.
and you can fill in what I missed, but it's really going to be coach dependent. And it is skill dependent. So as a pre-teamer, she's doing very compulsory skills, and really the level 1 through 5 is pretty much the same skills. They just add a little bit more difficulty as they progress. And if in the preseason the coach is seeing something that they think could be competitive, they certainly can move them up, all the way up until the time that we start competition. In order to compete, you have to be at that level and compete in 2 locals to make it to states, 1 states to make it to regionals, and then typically at those compulsory levels, your season is over at regionals. So if they chose to increase the level in the middle of a season, they would have to make sure that there were 2 meets left that the children could compete in and make their required score to move up. So most of the time, athletes start out at a level and they stay that level throughout the year, just because it's easier to fit in the requirements to keep progressing. However, I have seen some coaches, when the kids are doing really, really well, move them up. And they have to do it very strategically, but it can be done.
Yeah, and a lot of times you'll see that sometimes at the upper levels, that can happen, where maybe they're just, they might go to the first meet at one level because they just don't quite have all the skills for the next higher level, but by the next meet, they're at the higher level. As long as they get those 2 meets, 2 local meet requirement, they can do that. But again, a lot of that is coach dependent, and there can be several reasons why that is. And once you're up, you can't move back down. Once you're at a level and you've competed twice, you cannot stay with that group and move back down. So the coaches have to take all that into consideration as well. And I know sometimes it's like you might have a pair where one person might be ready to move up, but if the other one isn't quite there yet, it's better to keep them at a level where they're going to be competitive. So that doesn't mean that during the next summer, you can move up 2 levels or 3,
Okay, got it.
What I will say, just to tack on to that, USAG does have a couple, I don't want to call them rules, but just suggestions that they make, and they do look at physical preparedness as in the regards of the actual skills that are being done, emotional and psychological readiness, and the commitment to the actual team program. These are all suggestions for the coaches to kind of look at to see if the athlete is ready to move up and progress. That their attitude. So those are all things that coaches take into account when they're trying to decide if they're going to move them up. What I will also say about that is some of these levels, specifically level 8, is typically a multi-year level, because it's such a transition from the compulsory to the optional that has more than one routine, that kids do sometimes spend more time and more seasons on some levels than others. And what you will also notice with Acro as a whole is it is a team sport. So it's unlike JO because you are kind of connected to your pair or trio, and each year there's an evaluation on if you're going to stay together. Just because you're partnered together this year doesn't mean next year you're going to be partnered together, because they have to take into account the growth of the kids, the skill level of the kids, the age range of the kids, and things like that to regroup. So this is not always a a group that is going to stay together. Each year you can get different groupings. Sometimes you'll be a trio, sometimes you'll be a pair. It's not until you get into those international levels where they're doing 2 and 3 year stints to try to make it to a Worlds that you're kind of stuck or staying with the same partner for a long period of time. Pre-team and all the JOs, like every year could be changed. So it's just something to think about, and it's very different than JO gymnastics.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you for that. And then, and I saw the recommendation you said to ask the coaches for the skills, ask them for that list.
I did, and I also put in there, if you go back and you scroll up, exactly what Kim told us about where you can find, it's not the table of difficulty, it's the code of points.
Okay.
That will tell you all the skills, but I got to be honest, it's really hard to understand. So advocate might be just talking to your coach, because I look at it even now and I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Okay. And then I have one more question. Do you have can you give us an idea of how much we should budget each year for all of this?
That was the one point I forgot to make when going through the levels, is typically, as there is no hard, fast rule of how much a season is going to cost, because as they move up in levels, there's typically more practice time, especially once you hit that level 8 where you're having multiple routines. You're going to be at practice more often. So the cost is going to go up as, and the lower levels, the Leos compared to the, sometimes they'll have a team Leo, and then you get up into the upper levels where the kids are picking out their Leos. You can be looking at $1,000 or more for a leotard. So,
Eek.
Yeah, those prices go up. And yeah, having multiple kids.
I thought you were going to say for the season. You said for a
fun.
leotard. Okay.
You can get very beautiful, very pretty Leos for their like $200 mark. You know, and very nice Leos for the $200 mark. So if you're choosing to spend $1,000 on a Leo, it really truly is a choice, because there's no definitive rule that you have to have a $1,000 Leo. But a good quality competition Leo, our base Leo at our gym is about $250 anytime you have to purchase it. So you can get years out of it as long as the kids aren't like growing like weeds. But
and a lot of times, depending on the gym, you can pass down some of those base Leos at the lower levels too. So there are exchanges. And on the R7 Acro United, for the upper levels that have multiple Leos, there is a marketplace. Oh, Julie just put it on Facebook. So that pairs or trios can sell used Leos as well. But again, when you're buying a used Leo, you need to make sure that all the standards are still met. I know there was a group last year who got a used Leo and didn't try it on first, and the skirts were not long enough for their pair. So then they had to go out and buy Leos again. So it's something to look at.
Okay, thank you so much.
sure. Does anyone else have any questions? Some people are muted. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions before we end for the evening?
Oh, and this was recorded, so there will be a link to this. So if there's anybody else on your team who was not able to log in tonight, they can go back and listen to it and see the slides for themselves. And we are always open to questions. Anyone else? Okay, I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
very much.
I'm trying to figure out if I need to stop the recording and then end the meeting.
I think so.
All right, let's see. Stop recording. Do you want to stop cloud recording? Yeah.